Of August 2022. My name is Sam Gituku. Karibu sana to Kenya's Choice as we continue the coverage of the Kenyan general election of the year 2022 that we saw yesterday with the conclusion of the presidential election. William Ruto is the president-elect, having garnered 176,141 votes out of the valid votes. That's 50.49%. And of course, we know that Raila Odinga got just slightly less with 233,000 votes, and that comes to over 48% and 6.9 million of votes that he secured. We are looking at the papers this morning. On the front page of the Standard, you'll see Ruto, the fifth from a chicken seller to the highest seat of power. Dr. William Kipchirchir Samoei Ruto's journey has been nothing but meteoric. Yesterday at exactly 6:05 p.m., IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati declared him president-elect, beating his main rival Raila Odinga by just 233,000 votes in a closely contested election. He is now set to succeed his estranged boss, Uhuru Kenyatta, as Kenya's next head of state. And of course, you see the extensive coverage on different pages of that paper. The quote from Dr. William Ruto is, "Our eyes are firmly fixed on the future. We do not have time to look back. Our country needs all hands on deck to get things moving. There's no luxury to point fingers and apportion blame, but we must come together as one united and prosperous Kenya." On the front page of the Daily Nation, you'll see Ruto wins it. President-elect, Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission Chairman Wafula Chebukati declares William Samoei Ruto winner of this year's general election with a 1.64% margin against his closest challenger, Raila Odinga, amid protest from 4 members of the Electoral Commission who staged a walkout from the Bomas of Kenya to disown their chairman and brand the results as quote-unquote opaque, barring a Supreme Court petition. Ruto to be sworn in on August 30th. Of course, this is based on the analysis of the Constitution of Kenya that it provides that upon the declaration of the results, the president-elect would be sworn in on the first Tuesday after 14 days. Then, missing in action, will Raila appeal? After staging what was perhaps his most important stop at the presidency, Raila Odinga did not show up at Bomas of Kenya for the declaration of the presidential election results, and his chief agent, Saitabao Kanchori, protested at Ruto's win. The president-elect last evening told reporters he had talked to Mr. Odinga in the morning, but the Azimio leader was missing in action all day. And also you'll see some interesting timelines at the bottom there. Of 9 a.m. was the verification desks, was the time that the verification desks were cleared from the auditorium of the Bomas of Kenya. At 2 p.m., religious leaders led by Anglican Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit arrived at the Bomas of Kenya and are ushered into the VIP lounge. At 3 p.m., William Ruto arrived at the Bomas of Kenya. At 3:20 p.m., Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka arrived at Bomas. At 4:45 p.m., a few diplomats are ushered into the room holding Wafula Chebukati, other commissioners, and Ruto. At 4:55, the mood of the auditorium starts changing. Leaders from the Azimio coalition start walking out one by one. At 5:25 p.m., Mr. Chebukati, alongside Commissioners Abdi Gulie and Boyamolu, and CEO Marjan Hussein Marjan, walk into the auditorium, ready to announce the results, but the other 4 commissioners are missing. At 5:27, Wafula Chebukati gets ready to announce the results. Azimio Chief Agent Saitabao Kanchori, Narok Senator Lidamo Lekina, and other Azimio leaders protested chaos, and chaos broke out. Mr. Chebukati left the auditorium. At 5:38, the other 2 presidential candidates, that is Wahiga More and George Wajakoya, are seen moving out of the auditorium together with their families who had taken the front seats. They had arrived with heavily armed GSU officers who ring-fenced them as they were being escorted to the VIP lounge. And at 5:45, DP Ruto, his running mate Rigathi Gachagua, walked into the auditorium. 11 minutes later, Chebukati walked into the auditorium amid heavy security. Archbishop Sapit says a prayer before Wafula Chebukati starts his speech. And at 6:04 p.m., Mr. Chebukati declared DP Ruto president-elect of the Republic of Kenya, and now could be the 5th president of the Republic if there is no challenge or if there is no successful challenge at the Supreme Court of Kenya. Different messages have been coming through from different parts of the world, including the leaders in Africa and beyond. I want us to look at some of those, starting with Muhammadu Buhari, who is the president of Nigeria. And if we can read that, I congratulate the president-elect of Kenya, William Ruto, on his victory in the August 9 election. I wish him a successful inauguration and tenure in office, while also looking forward to more fruitful and robust engagements between Nigeria and Kenya. Of course, this was a tweet that was released hours into the night. He also says that I commend the people of Kenya for the peaceful and transparent outcome of the elections, which once again demonstrates that the democratic process, values, and principles remain the best way for the people to select their leaders and hold them accountable. He also said, Nigeria values Kenya as a strategic partner in the fight against terrorism and violence extremism. Between us lies a long history of friendship, economic and trade ties, and effective collaboration through various international organizations. He also said, let me also salute President Uhuru Kenyatta for his statesmanship and exemplary leadership to the people of Kenya and the profound legacies of his administration in infrastructure, education, healthcare reforms and tourism, as well as his strong influence and support on the regional security. What else did he say? This is Evariste Ndayishimiye, another president. My heartfelt congratulations to the president-elect William Ruto and the people of the Republic of Kenya for holding free, fair, and peaceful elections. We urge all parties to preserve peace and disputes be resolved by existing competent legal mechanisms. Idumu Jumuiya Yetu. Hassan Sheikh Mohamud from Somalia. I offer my sincere congratulations to President-elect William Ruto on becoming Kenya's 5th president. My best wishes to you as you begin your tenure at State House, Kenya. I look forward to closely working with you to advance our partnership in all areas of mutual benefit. Then Abiy Ahmed says that my congratulations, William Ruto, on your election excuse me, as the President of the Republic of Kenya. I wish you best of luck in your endeavors ahead, and we look forward to working closely with you on common bilateral and regional interests. All right, so those are the messages. Of course, that's the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. And in studio, I'm not alone. I'm here with Kakai Kissinger, an advocate. I'm also with Wamboi Nyutu, an advocate, and also the Vice Chair of the National Cohesion Integration Commission. I also have Irungo Houghton from Amnesty International. Good morning, all of you.
Morning, Sam.
And you're expected to be joined by Carol Kariuki, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, who will be joining us virtually to have this conversation. Let me begin with the three of you here. And let me begin with the lady. What is your take upon how this process has turned out? And this morning, of course, reporting about the president-elect, never mind the situation that was at the Bomas of Kenya.
Thank you so much, Sam, for inviting me this morning. A very good morning to Kenyans watching all over. And let me also join in and congratulate the president-elect, His Excellency William Ruto. His is a journey of resilience. We have seen his mobilization skills, and we can only pray to God to give him the wisdom in the event that he is, when he is sworn in, to give him the wisdom to lead this country in the best way possible. Mm-hmm. It has been an interesting turn of events, but what we can say, Sam, is that the IEBC has seemingly done its best. From putting out the forms out there for us to all of us see whatever they are tallying, to them tallying, even allowing the media houses to tally the results, including even allowing the candidates to also tally for themselves. I think the IEBC conducted these elections with the level of transparency that we would have wished to see. And this is something that we have not seen in the past. In the past, votes are tallied behind our back. We have never seen this happening. And this turn of events for me is a new thing. Okay. And it shows how our democracy has matured and we can only hope that it can continue so that we can now forget about election rigging and all those sort of narratives in the future.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Irungu, at some point you had been at the Bomas of Kenya early in the week, and eventually the situation turned to what it was yesterday. Did you witness it, and what did you think? But also, maybe you could start with a message on what the election of William Ruto means.
Yeah. So, I mean, like millions of Kenyans, I was glued to the TV sets yesterday. And, you know, it has been a fairly peaceful pre-election period. The polling day was relatively peaceful also. And really, you know, when things began to turn somewhere in the mid-afternoon, we all felt that sense of concern, that sense of shock that was there. And I think the... you know, the first thing I think is also just to acknowledge the announcement of William Ruto as the president-elect and to congratulate him and his followers for the campaign that they have run. I probably will not comment on the allegations of tampering or opaqueness, as some of the commissioners spoke about, because I think that's going to be a matter of legal, well, litigation in the weeks to come if there is a petition that's filed. But I think the important thing really for many Kenyans is to, at this time, to remain calm and to remember that we are a rule of law nation and that we have legal mechanisms to be able to respond to political disputes. And very sadly, last night I slept very late because I didn't want to sleep until I had a sense that the country was peaceful. But reports coming in suggested that there were 2 people that were shot in Kisumu, and another 2 people had died as a result of civilian, I guess, supporters clashing in Nairobi. So I think we have to be at this point calm. We have to not profile our opponents' supporters and even those that didn't vote. We have to always remember that actually the right to choose a political candidate is enshrined in law. It's enshrined in our constitution. And the right not to vote is also enshrined there. So let us not profile anybody at this time and attack them.
Okay, interesting. Kakai Kisinja, your reaction to the outcome of this election?
I think, thank you for having me. I think first and foremost is to say pongezi to the winners. And we must say that an election is a contest, and there are winners and losers. But at the end of the day, Kenya has won, because we are moving from unchanging governance and democracy. It's already a win for Kenyans. The electoral contest for me was the most hotly contested in the recent years, looking at even what the numbers came out in terms of the final tallies, basically dividing Kenya into almost 2. Look at the contestation and the wins at the Senate, look at the contestations and the wins at the National Assembly, and look at the gubernatorial contest. So it means that it was very hotly contested. But you can only have one winner, and that winner now has been declared by IEBC. We wish him well in terms of governing the structures and also leading the country going forward. But secondly, I also learned that, and I was in and out of IEBC, and with the social media and with the freedom of speech, there was a lot of disinformation and misinformation that was circulating across the board. Going forward, we need to know as Kenyans just which information is genuine and which information you have to rely on, and during especially times of contestation. Then the third issue that flag out is the IEBC, the conduct of IEBC throughout this election. I think that IEBC has done a good job from the beginning. And it all begins with internal evaluations. And when you saw Wafula Chebukati himself evaluating his people, you know, IEBC is not about Wafula Chebukati. IEBC is the entire institution and the infrastructures that turn or work or go down to all the 290 constituencies and the 46,229 polling stations. Then you also saw that the 4 commissioners that towards the end said the election was opaque. Actually, one of them confirmed that they had worked very well as IEBC, and everything was very well, and they had done a good job to ensure that the credibility of the poll is safeguarded. But just towards the end, there were allegations that they were opaque. And all of us wanted to know, what is this opaque? But we were not told what opaque is. We hope that we will be told what opaque is. But basically, that's my feeling of the entire electoral process. Above all, the peace that Kenyans have maintained in this election. It is wonderful and recommendable.
And because you mentioned that matter of opaqueness, of course, that statement was made by Julian Acherera, the Vice Chair of the IEBC, alongside 3 other commissioners. In your view, what is the place of such a claim on a day that the IEBC chairman was declaring the outcome, of course, guided by the law that says, let me just get that right, is it on 3810? Within 7 days after the presidential election, the chairperson of the IEBC shall declare the result of the election and deliver a written notification of the result to the Chief Justice and the incumbent president. Well, he did that, but also knowing that it is IEBC that does the process of tallying and verification. So what is the place of such a claim on such a day?
You know, electoral contestation and electoral process is guided by the electoral cycle. And we all know about it because the electoral cycle in this country is 5 years. So when anybody is issuing a verdict on the issue of opaqueness, are you looking at the entire electoral process that took place in the 5 years, or are you looking at towards the tail end? Now, when you talk about opaqueness, we do not know what she meant. I do not know what she meant by the word opaqueness. But when she talks about the word opaqueness, I will think she's hinting something to do with the transparency of the poll. She's saying there's something probably was wrong with transparency. But then the question is, which I would have wished to hear her say, is this transparency affecting the 290 constituencies? At what point was it opaque? At what point did it change? Is this opaqueness talking about the 46,299 polling stations, or what really happened? But it's sad that that the same commissioners, the 4 commissioners, were actually announcing the results throughout the process, isn't it? You saw them announcing the results, various results that were coming in. No opaqueness was raised at that point. So it will be interesting to learn at what point did the opaqueness come in. So for me, the timing is, it's really difficult to understand. One will really wonder, what is this that led them to come up with that conclusion of opaqueness? But then they did not tell Kenyans at the time what it is really was. But then you see, the law says that the returning officer for presidential poll is the chairman of the IEBC. He had a constitutional mandate to announce the results. But the same law says, if he makes a mistake announcing that result, and the result is not simple, verifiable, and accurate, according to the Supreme Court decision of 2017, the recourse is in the court. There's nothing you can do until now someone moves to court to determine or to unwind or to unpack or to give the ingredients of opaqueness.
And Wambui, I know you're a vice chair of a commission, so it's almost unfair to ask you to assess another commission vice chair. But what is your opinion, because you're also an advocate anyway, what is your opinion about that such a statement on such a day? Must the outcome of an election be made in consensus within IEBC, or is it just a question of the arithmetics?
Yeah. I think the Constitution, Article 138.10, gives the chairman of IEBC the mandate to declare the presidential results. And this particular article does not demand quorum for, the commission to discuss such results. And so the walkout by the 4 commissioners, in my opinion, does not invalidate the results as some people would want to claim. But of course, this is subject to interpretation by the courts because also the IEBC Act in its 2nd schedule discusses how IEBC should conduct its business. But my interpretation as a young advocate is that the 2nd schedule of the IEBC Act only speaks to the general business of the IEBC. And this could include other issues of recruitment of officers and other, just the daily operations of the commission. But a decision on who has won is not something the commissioners will discuss because it is a process and they are not the ones who are making that decision. It's people of Kenya who are exercising their democratic rights through the ballot. Theirs is just to count the votes and probably agree on which process they are to use. So probably maybe the opaqueness spoke to how the decisions were reached. That is the process.
Okay.
Probably, how was the process done? Was there transparency in their inside, in-house conduct of business? But as my colleague here has said, we saw these commissioners announce the results once in a while. Of course, most of them were announced by the chairman, but we also saw the rest of the commissioners announce the results. We saw them at Bomas throughout the tallying, and probably it came in at the end. And we would really, really wish to know, as Kenyans, we deserve the answers. We need to know, what does opaque mean? We know the dictionary meaning of opaque. But in this context of the Vice Chair, Madam Cherera, what exactly did she mean? I think it's something that Kenyans really need answers on. But most importantly, Sam, is to congratulate Kenyans, because as you've said, I'm the Vice Chair of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. But I wish to just congratulate Kenyans because of the manner in which they have conducted themselves before, during, and even after the polls. Of course, we have seen a few incidences here and there, but this is a significant reduction compared to the rest of the polls in 2017, in 2013, and of course, what we'd never wish to remember, 2007. I also wish to congratulate the leaders who lost elections, especially in the rest of the positions like members of parliament, governors, and all that, who gracefully accepted the loss, who accepted the results, and those who did not accept the results are legally seeking redress peacefully. Kenya is our country, it's for all of us, and we must always conduct ourselves in the best way possible. So these leaders who have conducted themselves, we really need to commend them. And we do not take it for granted, because in the past, we have not seen so many people concede defeat and congratulate their colleagues. We also saw a lot of calls from the rest of the leaders helping us do our job at NCIC. Every single leader who was campaigning out there, most of them were also rallying for peace. TV stations were rallying for peace. TV commentators were rallying for peace. And Kenyans on social media were also rallying for peace.
Right.
And we wish to congratulate them for that.
Okay. Irungu, so when you read the law, and I just want to quote another part of Article 138, that is 3C, after counting the votes in the polling stations, the IEBC, that is the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, shall tally and verify the count and declare the result. I'm just wondering, we saw a process that you also witnessed as an observer at the Bomas of Kenya. The statement by Cherera on opaqueness, where does it fit in? And what strength would it carry, even if anyone is to go to court, like she said that everyone has a right to go to court for the rule of law to be respected?
So obviously this will play out in the courts. It ought to play out in the courts. And in the courts, there really will be only two things that will matter. The first is data and evidence that somehow there have been illegalities and irregularities. And just to come back to a point I think that was raised earlier is that, you know, the margin that has been called for these two leaders is actually very narrow. I mean, it's just something like about 250,000. That's about the size of that's about the same number as the number of people who voted in a county, like Mombasa, for example, for the presidency. Now, I think what we have to recognize is that margin being so narrow, it will be, I guess, the opportunity. I guess it will be the target of the Azimio coalition in terms of just proving again whether there was irregularities or illegalities. But I think the other thing is that it remains to be seen whether the four commissioners will end up being witnesses or whether they will join into that case. You read a section of the Constitution, Article 138(3), but you read the section. I think you read the section C. Let me just read the other section, which is number 2. Paragraph 7 of the second schedule to the IEBC Act provides that unless a unanimous decision is reached, a decision on any matter before the Commission shall be by a majority of the members present and voting. So it does indicate that this will be an issue that the lawyers will pick apart. So I think that would be my first comment on this. I think it was regrettable to see the Commission not able to complete this task in a unified manner, but they obviously have their reasons and their information, and we look forward to seeing this come before the Supreme Court. What we do need to call on the leaders to do at this point is not to inflame their supporters. I mean, you know, I think it was a few months ago, Denzel Washington at the Oscars had this phrase when, I think if you remember, Will Smith went over and slapped a comedian on stage. And Denzel Washington said, "Be careful of the devil, because the devil emerges at a point of victory." Mm-hmm. And I think in the Kenyan context, if Denzel was a Kenyan, he would probably change that slightly and say, "Be careful of the devil. The devil comes also at the time of a perceived defeat." So we have to be careful at this time that, to quote the president-elect, that God continues to be the guiding framework for our politicians and for their supporters. We cannot see the numbers of people injured and fatalities increase as a result of this decision. So I think that's the important thing. I think for many of us, we need to also ensure that and encourage people not to chest thump. Mm-hmm. If you're on WhatsApp groups like me, the WhatsApp groups are splitting, with some people saying, "I told you these people are going to lose," and other people just saying that it was all rigged. And I think we have to avoid people chest thumping, either because they perceive that others have lost or that they perceive that the vote was stolen. I think that is now a matter for our courts, and we have to allow the courts to do their work.
Sam, I need to add something on what you just said.
Yes, we'll get back. Please hold it. I will get back to that after this break, because we need to take it. This is Kenya's Choice, and shortly we'll be joined by Carol Karaoke from KEPSA, who will be joining this conversation to talk about this and much more after the break.